Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Podcast Editor Mastermind, where we come and talk all things podcast editing, but not the editing tech stuff, but a little bit of that, but a little bit about the business and hang out with our pod pals in editing land. I'm Jennifer Longworth.
I'm Daniel Abendroth.
I'm Carrie Caulfield, Eric.
And our guest today is
Dava Visaya from the Philippines. Hello, everyone.
Hello, welcome.
It's so nice to have you on, Dave. I see you so often in the Podcast Editors Club. So
yeah, love to participate in. It's been fun, really fun.
Now, one of the things that we ask as an option for people to be on the show is to edit one of our episodes. So you took the plunge, you took the challenge, and you edited our last episode with Steve. What was that like?
Well,
Dare I
enjoyed
ask?
it a lot. And Steve mentioned I haven't really checked the file size though. That was his main complaint. And I just upgraded my unit, so it's like, okay, I can handle any kind of file size. But it's fun to have. It's rare for my case as an editor, right? I've been doing client work for shows that recorded in Zoom and all that stuff. It's really good. It's a breather to be able to edit good audio. So you guys got really good audio and I enjoyed it a lot.
yay! I'm so glad.
Although it's like 5 tracks with Daniel in there without talking at all. But I still added it. Just making sure I don't miss anything from him. Yeah.
I probably should have specified
Shout out
that I
to-
only had something at the very beginning and the very end,
Yeah,
and nothing in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout
So
out to Brian, who's with us but hiding tonight. He's our moderator and decided not to do the beginning and ending. But Brian, it's yours too.
oh yeah, cannot forget about Brian. I don't think this show would have happened without Brian. I don't think it would continue without Brian and Daniel.
This is a lot of work though. We're on the other. I don't know if you guys are podcasters, but this is not at all, right? We're just editors and
Right. Yeah, I realized long ago I like being on the back end of everything and not necessarily in front, but it's a whole different beast.
Carrie has
it
a podcast.
is.
I do what? I have a podcast.
You have a podcast. Yeah.
I do, kind of. It's been on a
Kind of.
long hiatus, and I kind of stopped publishing. Like I didn't publish my last few episodes, which I need to do, and I need to do that actually, so I can start the next season. But yeah, my podcast is called Just Podcasting, and guess what we talk about?
I have no idea.
Podcast.
Cats.
What? Cat.
No, there are cats.
A cat.
There are also geese,
My cat.
which is
Geese?
funny.
Oh,
Yeah,
dear.
because there's no de-goose. But it is really so it's not about production at all. It's about what it takes to make a podcast, essentially. So it's basically meant to scare anybody off from making a podcast.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. No,
It
goes.
does entail a lot of work, right?
It
Podcasting.
does.
Yeah.
It does. It's way more
And-
than just
And I
plugging in a
like
microphone.
the way you guys are making other people edit the show, and this is like the best thing.
You're
ever.
on to us.
Yeah, it's one part, to give people experience and help build their portfolio, but it's mostly that we don't want to edit it, so it's nice having other people do it.
You don't want to edit.
Daniel,
like-
you weren't supposed to tell them that.
Sorry, the secret's out. But-
Partly for me, it's being nosy. Like, what are you doing? Like, what does your editing sound like?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
that's been interesting. And it's been little nuances that are different between styles of editing. I mean, not like, so it's basically all the same type of editing. It's taking out the filler and the pauses and probably shortening the laughter, would you say, Dave? Did you shorten any of the laughter? I know there's a lot of
I
laughter.
did a couple, the reverberating ones, like a couple more. So you have
Yeah.
to cut it out. But that was fun.
Awesome.
And the cat, it also put into context, right? I removed most of it, but when Steve acknowledged it, so I have to put it there.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we were talking about in that
Mhm.
episode specifically is you can't make that cut. or how frustrating it is to make that cut and then have it referred to later in the episode. So sorry.
No problem. That's fun.
I'm glad you thought so.
Shout out to Carrie's cat.
So I have to
Brian.
say, knock on wood, they have been pretty good today because this is my third recording today and not so much. Oh, here they all come.
Oh, you beckoned them. Brian beckoned them with his little. So, Dave, getting back on topic, or trying to. So, you're in the Philippines.
Correct.
Yes. And how does that working with clients from the States and from around the world?
Yeah, it's basically for me, right? It's an outsourcing thing. Yeah, mainly just okay. You don't want to do the editing. I'll do it for you. So that's how I started. Really, just thinking of how to be able to be of service and just getting the piece of the pie, I guess. So internet has given me that opportunity. So I've been like freelancing. I wasn't an editor at start, right? So I was like doing virtual stuff, doing emails and all that stuff when I first started 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I've been used to the whole setup of working with people not in the same country or room or state.
So, okay, since this is like your ball game as an outsource, like you're being outsourced to in the Philippines, and what I don't necessarily be like what do you charge? Because I feel like you have an advantage there, perhaps. And I don't know for sure. I just know about outsourcing to the Philippines in general, which, by the way, what most people don't know is that the population of the Philippines is pretty well educated. You can find really qualified, amazing people in the Philippines to outsource your work to. But I'm always worried about, because I work with a woman in the Philippines, and I'm always concerned that I want to make sure I'm paying somebody a living wage, A. And then there's the other side of that, is that as an editor in the States, your pricing is something that I'm competing with because your cost of living is different. Your taxes are different. All that stuff. So what is the difference, do you think? If you're going by an average of like $100 per episode in the States, how much are you going to undercut me by?
That's a really good question.
I'm just going to put it out there.
So, when when I first started, like I've been doing this for, 7 years now for editing, but I've did it as like really taking on more clients just recently, 4 years ago. So I just had this idea of how I went actually check online, and I didn't want to put myself as like, okay, I'm definitely not on that side of the part where I charge really low. I charge like on the 60-70 part.
Okay.
But I can go higher depending on, it can get $100 depending on what they need, because I add on like publishing, and not a lot of people, for some it's just 70 for editing. So I can add in the package and make it like $100 as well. But I'm certainly I don't want to put, this is what I do. I love what I do, but I don't want to put like, giving it for $20. That's crazy. I've seen that. I've been in Upwork for quite a while. Even now I do it as a lead gen. And it was mentioned in previous show. I think it was the finding clients, right? So I'm still there. I check it out once in a while, but I can see crazy like $5 per episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not in for that.
Okay. So you're pretty competitive with
exactly
in terms of, but you probably are making a higher profit margin or more money than an American charging the same price. So do you work with a team?
So I have a team. So it's yeah. So maybe I'm not. I started with as an independent, right? Editor. I've been doing a couple of shows, but realized that if I want to take in more, I need to multiply my time. And it's perfect because I can now hire people who has this, as you mentioned, a bit of lower wage, right, where I can get 2 or 3 people. And actually in our team I have like 5 now editors
Wow.
doing that. And so it's yeah, so it's i'm on I'm like I'm on the business kind of thing. I want to make sure that it works like a business, it's systemized,
Mhm.
and make sure all the communication, how to share files are organized as much as I can. I just switched to Airtable recently. I don't know if you've heard about it.
Oh, that's what
Usually-
Daniel uses.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So Trello or Trello. I don't even know how to
Yeah.
pronounce it.
Trello. You're right.
Trello,
You're
yeah.
right.
So I've been using that for the longest while, and it gets confusing if it's like 30 clients you're handling,
Yeah.
and people come in, especially this time, adding in more content, throwing in more episodes. So
Yeah, Trello is really good for like long-term projects, but when it comes to weekly clients, it's not. It really falls short.
mm,
And trying to keep track of everything, and especially trying to keep track of it with
A team.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't mean Jennifer, just cut me off if you need to. Okay.
I was just about to say, and that's all that happened.
No, because I feel like that at this price point, it which I would imagine relatively it would be compared to the US. So if Dave was in the US, he would be charging US prices. So essentially it's like if you did the conversion rate, maybe it would all work out to be the same that somebody, the average in the US. So what you have done is what so many people want to do, and that's scale.
yes.
Now I wonder if you're able to offer just like really personalized service still now that you said you had 20 plus clients and you've got a team of 5. So are you still able to give like hands-on service with those clients?
Yeah, so that's the challenge. The biggest challenge actually when I first started is this possible at all? Because I do like full editing, detailed edits, right?
Right.
And we don't have the same brains and all of that stuff. And I think that's also one really stopping most independent editors of hiring, because we do it differently. We have our own style. So what I did when I first started was I really made sure everything was systemized as much as it could get. So every one of them are in-house. They're not like without me. So they are in here with me. We use the same
present in a
computer.
physical location.
Exactly.
Like you, and they're on the payroll. They're not contractors. Is that what you're telling us?
That's it. So I
Wow.
can do that here in the Philippines, right? That's my unfair advantage, right?
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I'm jealous, but still, I think this is like there's got to be something in there that somebody can replicate. Maybe not me. Somebody else can replicate. I'd be a little bit more savvy. So go ahead.
Yeah. So we all use the same units. I mean, OS rather. The same Logic Pro. We use the same app, we same plugins and all of that stuff. And the good thing with this, not to like, not to show off like I'm a big Apple fan, right? But Logic Pro, when you just share the file in our database, sort of on our Air network, so you can just get that file and listen to it, and you don't have to copy anything else, just that one file, and anyone can finish it. So what I did is like, okay, have someone first, and on the training period, I have to listen throughout all those edits, right?
Okay. How long is the training period?
So a month is a good enough time for. So I also have my own podcast, and I can, not to sound like, hopefully my clients are not listening to this, but I do have a category for each client, like high, low, and priorities, right? So I
Right.
kind of like
Yeah.
give out the low ones, low hanging fruits to the
I
first
look at that.
samples, right?
I got a spreadsheet, so
Yeah, I definitely have clients that are the shorter episodes that don't need a whole lot of editing versus the
Yeah.
ones that go on for an hour and have a lot of
yeah.
Yeah, so it's possible. Over time, I was like always thinking like working on the business and not in really, but I still do editing though. I'm swamped really. Actually,
That's
Yeah.
great.
yeah.
I love
What a
editing.
problem to have.
So yeah, but it takes it takes a lot of time for editing. Really, you can just do much right in a day,
Right.
and it gets tiring too.
So you said that your training period is about a month. Are these the people you hire? Do they have prior experience in audio, or like what's kind of like the skill set coming into whenever you find them?
You know what? My only requirement is they understand English really well. And the next one is they are attentive to details and have that positive attitude. So every I believe like editing is the tech side really is the hardest part, right? To teach
Mhm.
whole all the compression stuff and all that. I do like what we call Friday learning, where we learn each week as much as we can, right? Have a session and what works for this guy and what works for me and showing it off. I also have like a recording of the audio edits of how to do it. Because at first they're just gonna do cutting. They just wanna, make sure they cut the ums and ahs and all that. But the compression and all that stuff, I do that mainly at first, and over time I teach them.
Okay.
But yeah, I have some editors now. I think they're better using RX7, way better than me.
Oh, that's great. That is absolutely wonderful. Uh,
Daniel has a question.
yes. Okay.
And now I'm on the spot. I completely forgot what it was.
Okay.
Okay, let's go on.
So, I guess so I know from my own experience working with an editor in the Philippines. So, and I don't know if I think it might be cultural, but I have to like tell her to tell me what I owe her.
Oh yeah.
Is that a cultural, like, really? Because there are people like hiring a team member in the Philippines is an affordable way to add to your team, right? So I'm just interested in that, American culture where we're like, you got to pay me. And other cultures where that maybe you wouldn't do that to the person that's in charge of you. So is there anything like culturally we should like definitely be aware of when it comes to working with people in the Philippines?
Yeah, 100%. That's actually a culture of us where we don't. Money is something that we're afraid to ask it. And we do have this. Like I think we talk off cam about imposter syndrome, right? But this is a good topic to add in, maybe. But yeah, not really imposter, but basically, it's something like we don't really think of us as at par. And I for one doesn't. I'm not a big fan of that thinking. That's why I always put up myself like I can charge this as much. I'm not, it's not a disservice for it's actually helping the economy, right? If we're putting it there the right like prices and not like going below, because that's just crazy. And yeah, so that's it for me. It's like you have to I think it's good to be to put it out there at the start of a contract if you're hiring someone, outsourcing it, when they'll get the payment, I guess, because
Right.
they might not get ask for it.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
just leave you and
So-
you know
so-
what happened.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to not pay somebody, right? I just forget. Like it's, and I'm used to, other people who are like, hey, knock, knock. But this one particular girl, she's lovely and she's great. She just, I just have to remember to ask her to send me an invoice. And I probably should have set up a schedule. So maybe I'll do that. You had said, oh, go ahead. Jennifer,
Dan-
I'm like taking over. I have
Dan had
so
a
many
question,
questions.
and he forgot it, and now he remembers it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll
Cause
shut up.
I do want to get into like your editing process and how you edit our past episode. I'm curious, how long have you been doing this? Like, how long have you been in business?
So the editing stuff, right? So
Yeah.
I've
Just
been-
like edit, like professionally editing for others. From like not maybe not necessarily like outsourcing and like having
Yeah.
a team in house. But just kind of like, when did you get started?
So I started like 2013, so that's like 7 years ago. But I the first 3 years I didn't consider myself as a professional. I was just working for one client, right? And I didn't know that there was a potential there. I mean, podcasting at that time was I don't know, it was fairly new, or not a lot of people were in it, right? And I think there was a boom just the past few years. Now we're reaching 1 million, I think, active podcasts on
Well.
Apple. Yeah.
Quote unquote
Right.
active.
Active is
Yeah.
Valid.
Valid, yeah. So I've been doing that for 7 years, and I was just lucky. We're gonna get into this, right? The first client, but
Yeah.
I was just a bit lucky of working on a big podcast, right? Like on the first, it's like 1 out of 100, right? So it's a big podcast.
Wow.
They're like, top in the iTunes, ranking before, and they were in the niche real estate. So people ask about, who edits the show. So I did it, but the thing is they just taught me how to do it, really, because the host was editing his own show, and it takes him like 6 to 8 hours to edit a show.
Wow.
So,
Oh, goodness.
so it was a time saver having me as their
For
own
sure.
PA at first, and now editing their show. So that's it.
So what does your typical editing process look like? So we sent you our files, however big or small of file sizes were this time. We don't know. What did you do once you got done?
Yeah, so I've attended most of this. I don't know if Chris is still doing it, but I've attended the audio podcast engineering school.
Oh, very good.
Jealous.
So,
This should also
I
be
mean,
called the Podcast Editors Mastermind and Chris Kearns.
Chris Carr is always mentioned in his
Right?
show.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So far,
He's an honorary member of the team.
yeah, that's what I was like trying to. I know first 4 years, like I don't call myself professional. I need something to
Mhm.
call myself that way, I guess, to add to the confidence. So I joined that class. But yeah, my process, but it's basically just getting the files, making sure they're good. So what I do is I do an initial fix in it, like we call it cleaning here locally on our end and my team. So we clean the files first. We do RX7, make sure the cats are not too loud. We try to like apply the noise gate and all that, and apply the leveler. So yeah, so I'm a fan of setting the loudness set right and -23. So that's what I wanted before editing it, so that it's a bit leveled for all tracks, especially with this one where we had like 4 active people talking in track. So yeah, just clean it up on RX7, make sure the DS, the plosives, and all those stuff are fixed, and put them in a multi-track. Logic Pro is what I use. So yeah, and the thing with that show, so I have this bundle on RX, the isotope thing. I tried Waves before. That was so I got a couple of these Wave plugins so I'm surrounded with this audio guys, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so I have this uncle, right? He's my yeah, and a cousin who's really our audio engineers. The story of why I call it podcast engineers, and I know Steve hates the word engineers, and I mean, we don't like that, right? But the thing is, it came from that word really came from like an honest, I don't know what desire for me to put that into this context, because my uncle was a real audio engineer. He works in a studio. So these were my influence, and my cousin actually did work for a couple of years with him, but I was never really in that because I was pursuing my career and all that stuff. But yeah, so at first I started like, how about I form like a podcast editing and, have you as my consultants since you're all engineers anyway. So I got a couple of the, a head start, giving them, they shared to me plugins, access to some apps, but, there were PC before, but I transitioned to Mac. So I focus on Logic Pro now and their native plugins and all. RX is what I mainly use right now. That's sweet.
Awesome.
No, yeah, that's God bless RX.
So much.
There's
Yeah.
so much. It's so awesome. It's
So
awesome.
we alluded to it before in talking about pricing and stuff and how you add value and you do some publishing and a little bit extra. So what other ways as editors, engineers, producers, whatever we call ourselves, can we add value in serving our clients?
Yeah. So you know what? When I was editing, I was like thinking I'm just gonna do audio, right? And I think that's a good thing to practice. The one thing philosophy. I'm a big fan of that book. So I just focus on editing. That's me. I'm the audio guy. I want to make sure it sounds good and try my best to improve the conversation. But over time, competition comes in and that makes us grow as well. Like, a lot of editors are coming out and it's natural because there's a lot of podcasts who needs help. And I think there's abundance out there. There's a lot of, just clients out there waiting to be found. But the thing
Right.
was, so it's all about really, for me now, how can I get beyond just the thinking of editing, which is a lot of people are offering it and they're doing the same thing. And how can I, make myself unique, stand out? So I had this concept of like, because I hit the ceiling as well. I know someone from the groups in editor club where he got like 100 clients. I don't know who that was.
Daryl Darnell.
I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, if he can do it, maybe I can do it. But I was nowhere near that. I was working on it for 4 years ever since I started to implement this like as a business, right? So trying to hit that 100 client mark. I actually
Awesome.
have it on my back here. A 70 clients. I want to hit that maybe this year next. Nonetheless, so how I hit a wall of like I can't go beyond the 20-30 mark. So I realized like I need to step up my game, and I realized it's adding that extra. And you mentioned on the last show, Carrie, that your relationships really matter, and I think that's really important. And that's a struggle for my end as well because it's a cultural thing once again where okay, once it's all set up, I don't know if I'm an introvert like Jennifer here. I'm not saying you are, but
I totally am. Like I'm an introvert extrovert. So like this
Yeah.
suits me because I can listen for a long time. And then like I said to these guys earlier, as I was chatty in Messenger, I said, I'm sorry guys, I haven't like talked in 4 days. So it comes in spurts, and that's hard to deal with when you're working with clients because you can't not talk to them.
Yeah, there's like a balance where you don't want to be in their way. Like I don't want to be in their face all the time because you're the back end guy, but also at the same time you want to be on their face or something. You have to be like because they
You have to guide them.
Yeah.
You got to be like kind of always hovering.
because that was the problem I was facing. Like, okay, the next time I know they went to another editor or they stopped or stuff like that. So yeah, so I have like what was missing, and definitely not having the relationship, not maintaining that, not having a call. So that's one thing I think I'm gonna add, like having like quarterly calls at least, at the very least. Just to
Daniel,
make sure that they're alive.
You do that, don't you?
Yeah. So every 3 months, I give my clients the opportunity to have a one-on-one call with me and my wife. So my wife, Michelle, is my business partner. So she handles like kind of the running of the business or kind of like the high end, kind of higher brains thing. Whereas I focus on like running the business. And so like she'd really good like content strategy and that kind of thing. So we both get on the call and have like these one-on-ones with our clients. And even like this past Monday, we got on a call and I was kind of worried because like I didn't really have anything to say because like her audio was an issue, but we fixed that on the last call. Everything's going great. Her content is awesome. But she came with like a list of SEO items, like a whole bunch of stuff that she wanted to ask us. And it's like, yeah. So like she was like immensely grateful that we took that opportunity. And then just kind of like going back to what you're saying, like Daryl Darnell has 100 clients. You know, the risk of that is losing that one-on-one thing. And that's something that I've struggled with. It's like I want to scale, but I also like part of what I think is my selling point is like that relationship with me that I don't want to lose. Like on the flip side, you know, we're talking about Chris Curran, who has, I think, 5 clients.
5, yeah.
Yeah. So like you can offer more value for fewer clients and have like a more focused, you know, give them more focused attention as opposed to trying to make the same amount of money by spreading yourself out over a bunch of clients. So yeah, quarterly calls is something I do. And then also offering, because I see myself like who I work with is the podcasting is part of their business. So it's something that they can learn how to do, but their time is more valuable focusing on something else. So I kind of think like, what can I do to take more off their plate so they can focus on their business and less on their podcast? So like offering show notes or transcripts are a couple popular service items that I offer.
Yeah.
So other than just doing audio stuff and talking about audio, do you do anything like show note writing or blog posts or audiograms or anything like that to add value, or is it more the relationship and the coaching?
Well, I put that on the website, right? And I don't the thing with that is my strength is audio, right? I don't even video is not my like. I have to be honest with everyone. Like I hate doing videos. I mean, it's not something that I really love to do. It requires a lot of like computer power and all that stuff. It's glitchy sometimes when you export it, and you know, it depends really on what you use. But yeah, so I focus on audio editing. I don't market it like I have that, but yeah, if they ask, then I have to. So I don't know if that's gonna change in the near future of like I'm really actively pushing that because I think that's also important for clients. But for me, relationship is one thing, but I think right now what I'm focusing is how do they get the listeners, right? That's the and that's the thing that they really want to like figure out. And
right,
they start shows and they really don't have any idea what it is. There's this mindset of they build and everything will follow, and I think that's wrong, right? Like they can build as many episodes they like, and they like one listener per episode.
And it's their mom.
And you know, as an editor, you have like you can just let them go and publish those 100 episodes because you're earning money, right? And I think there's something wrong there. So I want to make sure that I'm helping them in a sense, like they're also getting what they wanted and what they really needed, right?
And I think to that point as well, it's like, a lot of people like want to say like, I'm just an editor, nothing else. And I had that mindset at the beginning. It's like, that's what I'm good at. I don't want to worry about promotion and SEO and marketing and all that. But at the end of the day, it's like, there's more to it than just editing. And if I can help my client grow their show, then they're more likely to keep producing shows, and thus I have more editing work. So it's kind of like whatever you want to call that, but it's like helping each other out, like you helping them help you.
Well, I think as a side bonus to this, when you're learning about SEO and digital content marketing, you're also learning how to do that, not just for your client, but for your own business. So the better you get at it, the better you do in general, and the better your clients do, and the better you're able to help, and it just kind of builds on each other. But if we can channel Steve Stewart here. Thank you, Brian, by the way, who brought this up. Who determines what is valuable?
Oh, that's a good question.
And I don't have any, like, I don't really.
Well, it's the client.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna,
well, I mean,
because everyone's going to be paying for it determines.
But if the client's wrong, because a lot of times the clients are wrong, right? They're focusing on the wrong things. I'm not kidding. Like,
because they want to get into new and noteworthy, okay?
Right. Yeah, I've been in New and Noteworthy. It doesn't do anything. Does not do anything. But that's the thing. So who determines it, and how do you deal with it when the client's wrong about it?
And I think so. To that point, it kind of goes down to like we're editors. We work with our clients, but also part coaches in some sense. So a lot of that is teaching our clients like what is valuable when it comes to podcasting, because like they're paying us to be at least for me, like the way I see, like they're paying me to be the podcast expert. So if they're wrong about something, like it's kind of part of my job is to kind of like steer them in the right direction, to one, tell them what is valuable and like what's worth putting time and money into and why, and explaining coherently like why New and Noteworthy isn't valuable, but getting your audience to share with their friends is valuable.
Yeah, I think that's really important because of the relationship, right? I think that's one more reason I should implement getting the quarterly call, because once you get that, because in a way, in each call you are trying to teach them how it really looks like. And yeah, in the initial call, I think that's one thing we can add as an editor, right? And get it straight. Like you'll figure it out on the first call. You'll figure it out. Okay, this guy has no idea what he's getting into. Doesn't know who's he's targeting. Doesn't have a business. Just I mean, I'm not nothing against like people who starts podcasting for the money, but that's definitely the wrong reasons for getting in podcasting.
Yeah, because it's not gonna happen.
Or knowing where the money is.
Right.
Like,
I mean,
podcasting isn't directly profitable, but if you're selling something else, then that's a good way to drive traffic.
So sponsor your own show.
Yeah. Who sponsors Yaya or just podcasting?
Nobody. Because I don't always practice what I preach and I forget. Just like I didn't record my end of the conversation locally. Because I'm not, and I didn't ask the podcasters to do that because I'm not smart enough to think about it until hindsight.
Mm-hmm. So I think that the quarterly calls are huge. So like you've been saying, that relationship is very important. I think the biggest reason I started doing these calls was I didn't want to lose that personal touch, and I didn't want to be just a ghost on the other side of an email address. It's like the only time we communicate is through, hey, here's my next show. Hey, your show's ready. Hey, I saw this issue. Just like these really cold email, and I'm not good at email. Like my emails are pretty brief and come off curt. So like having that face to face to build that relationship, that turns into, I don't know. And a lot of issues are hard to communicate over email. So being able to like explain verbally, face to face, through video, you can like cover like, recording issues, a whole bunch of different issues a lot easier when you can get on a video chat. And like just the call I had this week, I didn't know that she had these questions, and it's hard to like go over it in an email, but getting on just an hour-long video chat, it's really easy to address those questions.
I offer monthly coaching calls with my clients. Not everybody takes advantage of it. I think a lot of people find just knowing they can do it is something special. Like it gives them a sense, like a safety net. So they know they don't have to go out and get a podcast coach. They know they have somebody they can like have an in-depth conversation about whatever their issue is. I do have one client that takes advantage of it like regularly, and she as well as text.
Oh
man, can't even call you.
I have a texter.
Yeah. So I love her to death. She is an excellent client. But it's just so the flip side of the personal relationship are those boundaries, which I am not great at because I just like to talk and
what? No,
what? I know, right? Who knew? So I can kind of encourage clients to cross those boundaries sometimes but what they don't get is when I'm not in the mood, that I don't want to talk anymore. Like, that's it. I just won't, like, leave me alone for 4 days, and they don't. So I know you haven't instituted these calls, Dave, but do you have any ways that you set boundaries with your clients? And have you thought about that for implementing like the more personal, more frequent contact?
Good question. So Calendly is my tool, right? Make sure that they book it, and use most of the time there's no place to book one. But yeah, for me it's actually extra challenging because I take on the calls at midnight my time, right? Like that
Oh, yeah.
time around. So it's pretty challenging, and you're like tired from editing the shows, and you got someone who for a discovery call where you have to set up the recordings and all that stuff. That's the worst, by the way. Set up someone's recording over the phone or over a call. So it's crazy, but nonetheless, yeah, I can charge for that. But now come to think of it, like one guy took almost 2 hours just to set up because he has no idea how to audio works. Anyway,
Yeah, set up fees. Set up fees for the gear, and set up fees for the show template in your DAW.
Yeah. So yeah, going back to my answer, like I before when I first when I planned to have like 20-30 clients, I was thinking like it's all about systems, like
Right.
as less interaction possible, right? So I was used to that. That was my like strategy ever since, and I don't know if it still work. It does work, but right now you have to. I'm coming from that end where I need to add now some personal stuff, personal connection, right? So yeah, that was what I did. Like I always tell them, everything's set up. We have the shared folder. You get notified, stuff like that. So no interaction at all.
Yeah.
Right? A Dropbox, gets you notified. What else
You're
do you
just
need?
the little wizard that lives in the internet.
But what I'm hearing everyone say is that the value comes in the relationships,
Exactly.
I think
not
that's what
just in being in a process.
It
Just
does
chugging
work.
right
It
along.
does work for but you have to really add that. But, yeah, the boundary. I'm not there yet where they're really bugging me, like what texting me. They definitely can text me, but yeah.
You also have a built-in kind of out that if they know you're in the Philippines, it's like, oh,
right.
oh, sorry, I can't talk right now. It's 1 a.m.
Right. Although I swear, since the pandemic, I've sent this client like messages at midnight. She sent me messages because we're both up because it's the only quiet time we have. So speaking of this pandemic, I don't know if we're ready to kind of shift gears yet, unless you have anything you want to add about value, Dave. I don't want to cut you off. I know this is a thing for you. So,
or like besides the relationship, like what other things are you thinking about or contemplating ways to add value or offer more value?
Yeah, so, all right. It all boils down to what do they want, right? I always ask, why they even start a podcast. And usually it's all about that listeners getting more people buying their stuff if they're selling it through their podcast. So I was thinking for those who's starting out, I think the funnel kind of concept to share it to them, like even not just, really like I built the funnel for them. No, I just giving them like that option that when they start a podcast, have like a mailing list already or stuff like that, right? Like a freemium, whatever, in their show or that they market through their podcast. That's what the big clients are doing. And yeah, so that's what I'm not saying I'm doing that now already. It's my next plan. That's what I've realized recently. Like I'm going to do that, like offer it in the whole launch, when you launch the podcast, it's all in the package. Like you already have like a way to get the first 100 email people in it. Have a plan for the funnel, like low ticket, mid ticket, something like that.
You could even add a ClickFunnels affiliate or something like that. Just thinking about, because I have a podcaster that works with ClickFunnels, and she has a special offer that I may actually do. But I just, there's a song called ClickFunnels on YouTube, and it's that's how hardcore they are about it, but they work. I think there's a lot of I can see the importance that the digital content marketing plays in everything that we do. Right? I don't think in this day and age in podcast editing land that you can get away with not knowing anything about marketing. You have to know a little bit about SEO. You have to know a little bit about how to use Instagram. You have to know a little bit about how to build a mailing list, about funnels. So all these pieces, because those are the questions that everybody asks. Like, how do I do this? How do I grow my audience, right?
How to get ratings and reviews, right?
And who cares? And who cares about rating and reviews? That's not what
everybody.
You want. That's vanity metrics. That has nothing to do with anything. Sorry. Are you just trying to get me worked up here?
But how else am I supposed to get on New and Noteworthy if I don't get a lot of ratings and reviews?
That's vanity.
Yeah, but more people will find out about my show.
They looked at the Apple Podcast app, because I'm just getting to know it real well, and I have not seen New and Noteworthy. I haven't even seen listen to this show. I have just seen weirdness that has nothing to do. See, me all worked up. So yeah, I don't see New and Noteworthy in Apple Podcasts. I don't know where it is. I see a list of the shows I'm subscribed to through my iTunes from 50 years ago, and that's it. I have not come in contact with any suggestions or discovery or anything on iTunes. I've only searched for stuff. So yeah. Okay. See, all right. You did this on purpose.
So Chris Stone had a comment: for some clients, vanity is their value, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, they're idiots. And I don't mean that in a mean way. Okay. But if I could call somebody an idiot sandwich, that would be the appropriate time.
Oh dear.
And I love them. I love them all. But sometimes they need a little tough love and be like, you just might want to start a blog. I don't know, because this is going to be a very expensive, or get some plastic surgery. I don't know. You're not filling the void that way.
Wow, Carrie, rein it back in. Whoop, coming back in.
Dude, just 50 years old.
Coming back. All righty.
All right, I'm done. I'm off my soapbox. You got me on a weird day. So I haven't talked for 4 days. Now I'm getting it all out, so I have to talk for another 4 days.
So, Dave, did we answer your question, or do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think that's about it for me. That's my next step, right? That's my next level. So I want to get into that, launching and all that. Tough love is good value. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, that could be line item. It's $50 a month for tough love.
Tough love. Yeah. I will if you need it, I will give it to you. Right.
Answer your call at midnight.
Right. Exactly. I'll be like your mother. Okay. And I will be mean mommy when I need to be, and really nice mommy when it's appropriate.
But I like what you just said, Dave. Launch packages are really good, because launching a podcast is it's easy to do once you know how, but there's so many pieces to it that your clients, especially for mine, they have other businesses they need to focus on. But if you can walk them through that launch process to make it super easy and prevent them from making mistakes, like buying a Blue Yeti or using SoundCloud as a media host, that's another great way to add value to their show.
Yeah. And even the landing, the website, right?
Yeah.
I'm envisioning having these photos of the guests already, because they've recorded already, right? And just have a trailer episode there and a way to subscribe to the email list, just because these guys are on it. So that's my vision of adding making it valuable for them. Because at the end of the day, they want the interaction. They want the people telling them, "Oh, you got a good podcasts, stuff like that, right? So, but at the same time, getting the numbers growing. So, yeah,
I love it. And honestly, just kind of think about it. Like, as you implement this, I think this would be like a great way to, like, in the podcast editors mastermind Facebook group, kind of continue this conversation and your progress as you kind of roll out some of this, what your results are, where your successes are, where your failures are, and just kind of help you, help us, help everybody else.
Yeah, because I just want to know what I can steal from you
Exactly.
and implement my own way.
If you look at our website, you'll notice a lot of similarities. Because I'll go to Carrie's website and I'll see something I like and I'll bring it over to mine. And then Brian goes.
Right. Yeah. And absolutely. If you need to steal something from me that I'm doing, have at it. Right. Because it only makes us all better.
Exactly.
There's enough to go around, even during a pandemic. Speaking of which, quickly, how has COVID-19 affected your business? Has it at all?
It did in a both good and a bad way, I would say. At first, it was really scary because a lot of people were like, even before the pandemic, one client already stopped. Like he was I think he was paranoid or something. But anyway, he was like hoping for guessing for the next crash, and he just went out of missing even a week before the quarantine and all that stuff. But nonetheless, I got like 4 of them stopped. But what's amazing is I got like 5, more or less, something like that, getting in, because they're like starting to post content now. And so I've joined this like a group right on Facebook as well, where a group of entrepreneurs were helped, like in a way they like help each other go back, what to do this time around. And they like had this summit or stuff like that. So I joined it because I needed it in a way, also to learn from others. And you know what? In there, like they promoted heavily. I was in a good position. They promoted heavily. Start a podcast now. And I was like, oh man, this is an opportunity. So I did that. Like, who wants to start a podcast? I can help you with that. And I'm actually in the middle of giving like a 5-day challenge, like helping people start their podcast, entrepreneurs, which are basically who I'm targeting, right? Who has already existing business and they want to like put their content, especially at this time. But I don't know if this is good or bad, because if everything goes back to normal, they won't have time to even record, I guess.
Well, hopefully you can get them invested before then.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, just planting the seed, and I think that's the best thing we can do right now, because everyone's at home, like, and more people are telling, go do podcasts or YouTube or TikTok or whatever. Right. So
do you do TikTok?
No.
I've played with it, but I don't know how it fits in the.
I only watch TikTok videos if someone cross posts to Facebook. So then I got TikTok. I was like, oh, look at this, but I don't do anything with it.
So TikTok was bad for me because I couldn't like stop watching the videos.
Yeah.
Right? You get sucked in. It's terrible.
Okay.
Before we get sucked into something else.
Yeah. Dave, we alluded to it earlier, but how did you get your first client?
All right. So, I've worked with this, as I've mentioned, I was really lucky with this client, right? Because they're still with me. And now they have 4 shows. Amazing. When they started with 1 show, so I just bill and and I'm outsourcing, a couple of the shows. So but I still do edit it. I mean, I really owe it to them, giving me the opportunity. So I was like their first VA from the Philippines, and I was doing email stuff, and they were like asking me, so what are you good at? Like, as they grew, right, they went into the 500 something Fortune like companies in the past, in 2016 or 17. But anyway, so like, okay, what are you good at? Like, I don't know. I just want to do email stuff back then, like 2013. But yeah, so they figured out that I'm into music. I was a frustrated rock star, band. I played the guitars, hoping to be one of the next rock star here in the Philippines, but didn't pan out well. So I ended up editing podcasts.
Well, there you go.
Really fun, though.
I have a feeling That is not an uncommon story.
So yeah, I was, I had experience mixing stuff, like, and yeah, as I mentioned, I'm in the group of band people, like audio artists, vocalists, singers, producers, right? Engineers is what they call them. They really work in a studio, and they hang out in the studio, drink, lots of alcohol in there, stay there. So I was in the right group, and like, okay, are wrong, right group to learn editing,
right.
right, and how audio works. So how microphone works. I mean, a lot of people don't know how microphone works. I mean, but for me, it was like second nature. This is how you do it, how you make it sound good. But yeah, so I was able to blend that together for that first client, but I just at first, really, to be honest, I didn't like it. It takes a lot of time. I mean, yeah, it takes a lot of time, and I was someone like I can't focus for 3 hours editing show, so I just handled that one client, and I spread the work. This true story. I spread the work like 3 days to finish one episode. Like 1 hour in one day, like 2 hours. And I was just taking it. It was a job for me, but eventually I realized, like, podcasting has been growing, and that's how I got it. Like, oh, I can replicate this. And another person who worked in that company, who quit and started his own, like, he's part of a new company, started a podcast. And of course, he knows that I'm doing the podcast. So, okay, I'll do it for you. So that was the first. It was like a stroke of luck, I guess, in a way, that I got into this. And could have, I'm so happy for the turn of events. I love it.
So is there still beer and other alcohol flowing in your
That's a no here. I want work done.
So if people want to find out more about you, what you do, maybe work with you, check out your work, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
So podcast engineers is the .com. Don't hate me for the word engineers. I've built this like 5 years ago, but yeah, it came from, like, from the people of audio engineers who I thought I could still consult with, but they went on their lives, right? So it's all me. So it's really just me podcasting, no audio stuff. Like engineers, really. To be honest, I was thinking of, like, even catering to, like, mixing music at first. That was like my route, right, when I first started this. But I realized now I just focus on podcasts. So yeah, that's it. Podcastengineers.com.
Perfect. If you want to be part of the podcast editors mastermind, Carrie, what do they need to do?
Well, you need to go to podcasteditorsmastermind.com and click the little button at the top that says be a guest and fill out the form and tell us if you want to edit an episode. Totally optional. You don't have to, but it's a great way to show off your skills and build up your portfolio if you need to. And then we will get back to you and schedule you as a guest. But try and have a topic you want to talk about, because we like to obviously talk about podcasting business, podcast editing business stuff. So I can't think of everything myself, and these guys get tired of me being like, oh, we should talk about this. So please give these guys a break and come up with an amazing topic, and it can be something you're struggling with as well. That's probably the best thing. So anyway, that was my really long way of saying how you can be a guest. Maybe you don't want to anymore on our show.
Where can they find you, Carrie?
Yeah, where can we find you, Carrie?
I wonder, by the way, I wonder if someone will go be a guest and not edit a show. I wonder when that will come.
They'll be watching this and go on. No, I'm not doing that one.
Jedi mind tricks. You will edit a show. This is the show you want to edit. So you can find me at yayapodcasting.com. And you can also follow me on Instagram at Carrie Eric.
Daniel?
You can find me at rothmedia.audio.
And I'm Jennifer Longworth. You can find me at bourbonbarrelpodcasting.com and across social media at KY Podcasting. Again, thank you to Dave for being our guest today. And thank you to Brian for being our moderator and keeping us on track and trying to keep us on track in the comments. That,
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. So we will catch you guys again next time. Again, that's podcasteditormastermind.com. Like, subscribe, give us ratings and reviews so we can make it into the charts and more
You
people.
don't have to. Don't listen to her. Don't listen to her.
You are not worthy, please.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.